For many parents and learners across Uganda, it was with a sigh of relief that they returned to classrooms following a 2-year absence owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. About 15 million learners were forced to study from home when the COVID-19 pandemic forced government to close schools for the better part of 2020 and 2021. But whereas the return was heralded by many, challenges were waiting in store for the learners, teachers, as well as the administrators of the learning institutions. Top of the agenda was getting the minds of learners back in class after being at home for 2 years.
For the start, it was really challenging because students came back when they had forgotten most of the academic covered work.
It was a big challenge having them settle down in first term, and we had a number of cases here and there.
Some of the learners didn't even return in the first place.
Some of them saw themselves having outgrown themselves, and it was a problem. And some had tested money.
Then a good number of girls also were lost out to matters regard to teenage pregnancies and wouldn't have them back.
This was followed by getting the teachers back in classrooms as well.
But we lost very many good, especially science teachers, and many teachers from other subjects. Generally, the education sector lost because of COVID.
Owing to the 2-year closure, the government announced that there will be an automatic progression to the next class, while also helping learners catch up on what they had missed in their previous classes. This translated into a heavy workload for both the teachers and the learners. The Education Ministry unveiled an abridged curriculum to lessen this workload.
Because they tried to condense the work and make it a little bit simpler and direct for our dear learners. I believe it has really helped.
With the COVID-19 lockdown lifted, the country was immediately hit by inflation. With fuel and commodity prices going through the roof, school administrators felt the pinch as they raced to readjust their budgets.
When you look at prices of commodities like posho, books, stationery, they are very high.
And the challenge was that some of the schools like ours didn't increase school fees, but we found ourselves spending high.
Disrupted incomes among people translating into poor payment of school fees further worsened the situation.
Remember, parents have not been paying well. Money has been coming in bits, so meeting such expenses has been a challenge.
As they were struggling to keep up with the situation, the outbreak of Ebola cast a shadow over the country's education sector. Whereas the Ebola epicenters of Mubende and Kasanda were placed under lockdown, other parts of the country survived this lockdown. But the compromise was that the academic year be cut short by 2 weeks, with schools closing on 25th November as opposed to 9th December. This also left a sour taste in the head teachers' mouths.
Whenever such diseases come up like COVID, Ebola, the first institution to close is the school. So the schools are affected mostly. But we are hopeful that the government will come up with a remedy.
Like now they said we should close on 25th. It's very abrupt. Kids had not yet done exams, and that means very many parents have not paid to complete their fees, and the schools are facing issues.
The head teachers are now setting their sights on the 2023 academic year. I asked them what the future holds for their learning institutions.
We are hopeful that the commodities that have been rising day and night at least will lower a bit, because now the economy is somehow stabilizing.
It has now become like a planned move. That last year it was of COVID, they closed. This time now they have closed because of Ebola. We are not sure whether next term or next year we shall get another type of disease and schools will be closed probably.
We have started, I would say, preparing temporary kind of budgets that would run maybe weekly. We need to find ways of meeting weekly budgets maybe.
The 2023 academic year will run from 6th February to 1st December. Joyce Nakato, NTV Weekend Edition.